just told you they deliver cocoa to the license buyer company. Just told you on this platform, if you were listening, told you they deliver those goods are with them. They have not been paid for.
Oh, no,
I just told you. Even if you were not listening, if you were not listening, you would have heard him.
Okay. Let me explain. You have heard him. Ofosu told you that it gets delivered in bits. It's not a one-day event. So when he says they delivered, he's not talking about that 70,000. Look, I have here.
What was it?
Mr. Okansi, maybe we should raise Mr. Wisdom Dogby, the MD of
Cocoa Marketing Company.
He says he didn't have the 70,000 in any warehouse. He was yet to receive it. And you see, that 70,000 is the difference between the 580,000 they had received, right? And the projected 650,000.
Some of which were actually still on the farm.
Okay. Exactly. So it was yet to come. You come here, you are just misleading citizens. Why? Listen, you lost an election. You are not getting it. You see, we have to keep repeating. You alone, you can't come back to office, right? It's the people in the middle like us, right, who alternate. We vote for NDC today, then tomorrow we vote for NPP. We in the middle, we are not interested. We've just made a decision. We saw that you misgovern. We see that take your time. Rather support them. You don't know that when you constructively support NDC, that one too, we can in 8 years say that for supporting well, you should also come.
Okay.
So it's also, no, let me show him. So you see, we are all intellectuals. Don't think that every time you have to pull wool over our eyes. Keep pulling wool over our eyes to come to government. It doesn't work that way. Just now, the Ghanaian is getting very savvy. So another way is to play a very strong supportive role. What you do, we'll keep saying, you are the deputy MD, so to speak. You've supported these people for this number of years. We think let the deputy also come back into the saddle. It's also a good way. But when we've just thrown you out and you think for the past 1 year, any little thing, you do propaganda, then you reinforce the reasons why we threw you out. Now let's come to the next point. So I'm saying that I have Wisdom Dogbe here. He says, the MD says he didn't have the 70,000 metric tons. You are not in the saddle. And you want to tell Ghanaians that Wisdom Dogbe was sitting on 70,000 metric tons. Between the two, who would we? That's the MD of Cocoa Marketing Company. They do the actual sales.
I know Wisdom, so
and he's asking you that. Did you call him?
Yeah.
You came to call him.
Continue.
Let's do that. It's a sign.
Speak to you. I have a rebuttal. So it's okay. I'm giving opportunity to rebut.
We are dealing with data here. The man who has the data, you've not verified from him, then you are using some sources. Who would we trust? The man who has the data, he is in the saddle. He says he didn't have those 70,000 metric tons. You didn't check with him. I know these are the same kind of bad sources you were using and you did the bad governance. That's the same way. You are not diligent.
Yeah, let's
make that point. This is the same lack of diligence. No, that is it. And that's the price. No. We will know. That's the same lack of
I want to stick to the
I respond the same way, so it's okay.
When we are talking, I was quiet.
I'm just alerting you.
Yes, when you get your time. But you see, when you were misled, I just kept quiet because of this. The man you are accusing of sitting on the bean says he didn't have the beans at the time. So between you, who is outside the door, and the one who is inside and in the saddle, in charge of the steer, who would we believe? Maybe raise Mr. Dogbe on the line so that you show you. And you, Kabiru, today, you must show us the warehouse that.
It's clear, it's true that yes, the economy is doing well when it comes to some of the fundamental microeconomic indicators. Nobody can run away from that. That inflation is coming down, according to GSS, is true. That interest rates are coming down is true. That fuel prices are relatively stable is true. That the city is relatively stable is true. All these things are considered they're true, they're fact. So that state of the economy, you could say that. But then you can then also say that at what cost? And then you can say that this current economy that we are in has picked or is picking winners and losers. That there are some people or some sectors that are winning from the current economic system, and yet there are some substantive amount of people also losing from the current economic system. So the winners are what I'm talking about, the microeconomic indicators. So if it is doing well there, you can say it is. Interest rate, the city being stable, the fuel prices. So those are the people or the sector to come back and say they are what? They are the winners of the economy. But then there are losers, biggest losers. One of the biggest losers of this economy is Galamsey, or the fight against Galamsey. If you listen to everything that they've heard, if you didn't listen to both Felix and my brother here, there's a central idea is on gold. It's on gold. What gold does and what gold doesn't do. If you look at the law, the policy that has been taken to Parliament about shoring up our gold reserve within a very short period of time, it's on gold. Then we have to ask what is happening to gold. The price is good. Where are we getting the gold and how are we getting the gold? Galamsey is still on the ascendancy. Galamsey is still a marauding impact. Galamsey is still destroying our forests and our rivers. That is still happening. And a lot of it is by this gold they're talking about is from small-scale gold miners. We know that some of these small-scale gold miners are Galamseys. We know.
They're licensed small-scale miners?
No, some of the people doing mining in Ghana are Galamsey. There's Galamsey gold in Ghana. That's the point I want to make. There's Galamsey gold. We've been told that Gold Board has monopolized the buying of gold in Ghana, small-scale gold. We've been told that. They monopolize it. So nobody else can buy that gold. 2, we've also been told that smuggling has been kept. And I've asked this question, I'm going to ask this question again. But Galamsey is on the increase. No single civil society organization, no single independent organization has come out to say that we are winning the fight on Galamsey. No, I've not heard them say that. In fact, their saying is getting worse and worse. So my question is, what is happening to that Galamsey gold? Where does it go? You see, if your mother sells kenki, and then at the end of the day, there's some left, not but you can take it or you can eat it. You can mash it, you can eat it. What is happening to the excess, to the Galamsey gold in this country? Because my fear is that we are, because of the high prices of gold, because of how gold seems to be, it is the gold, part of the gold money that is being used to show up the city, right? It is part of the, my point is that we are likely going to be seeing the positive effects of gold and forget where the gold comes from. Every scientist tells us that our kotomre, our cassava, and all our food products in the area, they are getting poisoned. They said that. Ghana Water Company is telling us that the amount of money they need to find, to clean water for us is outrageous, and they are not doing that. There is a documentary going on another news channel. If you listen to it and you are Ghanaian, you have to cry. The Ghana Catholic bishops went to this president and asked and made a call. They issued a statement. They said the time to end, the time for, what's the name? State of emergency is now. Delay is a failure. I listened to the president on the State of Nation address. There was nothing he said there that is groundbreaking or that shows that the fight against Galamsey is changed or is going to become bigger and better. No. It's still the same thing. As we're talking, NIMOS talks about the lack of, sometimes the lack of equipment. I was here on a news show when the NIMOS directors talked about, so where sometimes they go into the forest and they are meeting forces that are more powerful than NIMOS, that they had to retreat on a number of occasions. It talked about where sometimes even some people, when they went there, did not, some of the soldiers did not have vests, bulletproof vests to do this. We need resources to provide them. So my point is that it seems we are throwing the forests, the rivers and the waters under the bus just so we can get the gold. It seems that so long as we are getting the gold and so long as the gold prices are high and so long as we can use that to show up the economy, we should shut up about Galamsey. Please, why are we selling our future to eat today? Why are we poisoning and killing ourselves slowly in the name of the white gold or in the name of gold just so that the economy is there? We shouldn't do that. And I think that it's time. Look, this president has had 1 year in office. And my expectation was that he would have come up with a very robust plan to fight Galamsey and given us specific KPIs on how he intended to achieve that. But there was nothing like that. And so for me, I feel completely betrayed and I feel completely disappointed that we have still let. Now, look, the fear is this, that now the government is not only neglecting the Galamsey fight, we are trying to normalize it. We are trying to make the Galamsey like it's just there. It's like, you know, it's like cancer, so you cannot treat it, you can just treat it. You cannot cure it, you can just treat it. We shouldn't do that. We can fight. I can quote a former member of parliament and a current minister of state who said that the chief executive, the Ghana commander-in-chief of the country can fight Galamsey in less than 1 week if he wants to. We are not doing that. So one of the biggest losers in this current economy is Galamsey, is our forests and it's our rivers. Okay.
If you have majority of the elements within the states not doing so well, that is what we tell on the state.
Is that where we are?
I think so.
Majority of the elements
I've made the point,
not doing well.
I've made that point here severally, and it's without emotions. It's just facts. I mean, Lawyer Duji made some very factual points. The macroeconomic performance in the last 1 year is without doubt. There is no debate about that. There is no conversation on that. The fact that we've seen unprecedented improvement in inflation, never seen before. I doubt even first world countries see this kind of macroeconomic improvement in such a short period. No discussion on that. The fact that we've seen some very heavy strength from our currency is without doubt. And of course, in a country like ours, once you have these indicators improving, it would affect a lot of other things. The details as to whether it's sustainable, based on what is driving it, is another conversation. And it's time for the government to actually sit back and be honest with themselves, because we are going to hold them to their words. First of all, you need to begin to tell the Ghanaian people what is driving this improvement, so that should anything go wrong, which we are not praying for, you don't come back with excuses.
At least they've told us about gold.
We've seen too many of them, exactly. And we've always made a point about gold. And we've said that if gold is what is driving us, that we are in trouble. Because we don't control it. We have absolutely zero control, like we are seeing with cocoa. It goes down one night and everything is in shambles.
Have you seen the promise of diversification, as Vicky pointed out?
To the extent that the government communications minister, when I was coming, was saying somewhere on another platform that if they had not given the cocoa farmers the haircut, the economy would have collapsed, and that they did that to save the economy.
But President Mahama said that yesterday.
Perfect. So you see, I am drawing our attention that in spite of the politics, we have a country to run. I have said it here, that the government's performance in the last 1 year has benefited, in my view, some 10 to 15% of the population. No doubt about that.
10 to 15%?
Yes. The person that imports directly and so need forex benefited big time. That person cannot debate or fight this government. The person that pays anything, whether goods or services, in dollar, benefited. Who drives to the fuel station to buy fuel into their vehicle or plant or machinery, benefited.
But the person joining the trotro also benefits.
He hasn't. That is where the issue comes in. In Accra, the data is that between 75 to 80% of people who live in Accra rely on commercial vehicles. They are not getting access to the vehicles. And as a result of that lack of supply, it is increasing the prices. So today, people have to wake up at 3 a.m. so they can get to work at 8:30 a.m., which they are late anyway. And they have to leave the office at 5.
But that's not a new phenomenon.
No. You see, making a point. None of the things happening are new. We have seen inflation going above 50% in this country before. It's not new. And we have seen inflation come down before. So none of the things are new. We are talking about a government that has come in place to fix the situation. Don't take us back to what is new or what is not new. If that is the case, then get out. But before I even make my point, let me just do some factual. Once we are discussing economics, we must be factual with the issues. So, Eduji is first a politician, a lawyer before all of these things. He likes to garnish the issues. They did not inherit inflation.
But he has an economics background too.
No, but I know him. I know him very well. Data can be used for anything. His government did not inherit inflation at 54%. So,
of course, that was in 2022.
No, but so it's disingenuous.
No, but I never said.
No, please hold.
No, you did. You mentioned.
No, I said at a. Hold on.
Yeah.
On this platform, I said at a point inflation.
Yes.
The only two countries were better.
I was actually about to interject when he said that because it was unfair. You were using figures at 2024. But when it came to inflation, you went to 2022.
No. I moved from 54
don't invite
to 23.
Don't worry. Don't invite me.
Oh, you could have,
right. I won't invite rights.
Please don't invite me again.
I would say what you said wrong, but
if you invite me, I'll come.
So it's disingenuous for you to be having a conversation in this manner, and then you are talking. So what you are saying is that inflation has moved from 54 to 3. No, it's not true. Whatever it is that your government has done to drive inflation down, moved it from 23% to 3%. That's fact. Immediately you bring in 54%, we'll question what other extraordinary thing you've done, because it means that you've doubled the effort to be able to drop it from 54 to 3. So don't do that. You did not inherit the exchange rate at 17. Again, don't do that. But let's move on. This government, I think, is refusing to take responsibility for anything that affects the Ghanaian people, except the macroeconomic indicator that there is no debate, which we all know that the driving force is a high international market price for gold. That is all.
The IBB says, this is an inherited policy. They claim that we have rebranded.
Yes.
A policy that they claim was called Gold for Reserve by Bawumia. Yes. First of all, and I spoke about a comical artifice. You see, they dress the man up in borrowed clothing.
How? What
in one breath, they say this man had nothing to do with the Ghanaian economy. He was not in charge. And that all the negatives of the economy had nothing to do with him. Yet the same man who was not in charge was able to impose what they say was their flagship economic policy at the time, gold for reserve. After, it doesn't make sense to you. So they don't attract much credibility towards the man by that narrative. Because the man cannot be in charge at one time and not be in charge at the same time. It is an untenable, illogical argument. Number two, to say that Bawumia is the brainchild behind gold for reserve, you must mean two things. Either that in the whole world, no central bank had gold reserves as part of their strategy to defend their currency, or that it was the first time in Ghana's history that the central bank had gold reserves. Both claims are false. Look, for 3 centuries, as far back as 1694, the Bank of England has had gold reserves. Indeed, they hold the world's largest gold reserves, if I'm not mistaken. Only last week, Sky TV was allowed into the Bank of England votes. They counted 22,000 gold bars kept in that one of their votes under the streets of London. They even keep gold bars from other countries for them. So the principle or idea that central banks keep gold is not novel. It is at least 3 centuries old. Unless they say Bawumia is like the Highlander. He has lived for 3 centuries. And was around in 1694 to propose this. I don't see how this is tenable. Number two, even in Ghana, the first time we had gold for reserve was in 1961 under Kwame Nkrumah. Before the MPP came to power, there were 8 tons of gold in the votes. Sorry, there were 8 tons of gold belonging to the Central Bank of Ghana, the Bank of Ghana. Indeed, Alfred, to put it in context, when you say 8 tons, it is not small. It means 8,000 kilograms of gold. That is what the Central Bank had. Then, between 2021 and 2022, they said they added 20 or 22 tons. When we came in, we've added another 10 tons. You understand me? So it is not true that having gold as part of the reserves is Bawumia's idea. Because it existed as far back as 3 centuries ago, 300 years ago.
Okay.
And then in Ghana, it is not the first time that we've had gold in our reserves. Number 3, what was even the purpose of having a ramp up in gold under the MPP? 2 things had happened. Because of their destruction of the economy, people had spirited out their investment, especially those who were abroad and were investing in our country. Normally what they do is that when they invest in our bonds, when the maturity is due, they roll over. But since 2021, when they noticed a decline in the economy, they started pulling out their money. Indeed, the Bank of Ghana itself says that over a 2-3 year period, up to $6 billion was spirited out of this country by investors. So they had depleted our reserves to a point where they didn't have money to give to importers of crude oil. And it was going to pose a problem. So what they did was that they put in place a very opaque arrangement. They bought gold, gave it to an intermediary, who then went to sell it and use it to buy crude oil and bring it. That's what they call the gold for oil. It was born out of necessity because they had depleted the reserves. If they had reserves in dollars in the Bank of Ghana, they would not need to go and do any gold for oil programming. The other point is that if indeed this was such a novel policy,